to be. I think this might be we might be finishing First Samuel today because let's see here. Oh, there's actually two more chapters, so next week we'll probably be finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. Shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom. I'm Brother Doug, as always. My mom's sister Sharon is right next to me here. Um, we have Brother Dennis with us today. We have a smaller group, but we'll see if anyone jumps in halfway through the study. Sometimes we have brothers and sisters getting on a little late, so we'll see. So let me just see here. We're going to be doing First Samuel 27 to 29. So I'll start us off here in 27. And Daoud said in his heart, now shall I be one day delivered. For and death is implied there, even though it seems to not be in the text, it's implied. That's talking about he's being delivered to death. Into the hands of Shaul, there's nothing better for me unless I should escape into the land of the Philistines, and Shaul should cease from seeking me through every coast of Yashrael, so shall I escape out of his hand. So Daoud arose and 600 men that were with him to Achish, son of Mauk, king of Gath. Gath is the land of the Philistines, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Daoud dwelt with Achish, he and his men, each with his family, and Daoud, both his wives, Ahinoam, the Jezreelites, and Abigail, the wife of Nabal, the Carmelite. Now, just to keep note, Jezreel sometimes, depending on your version of the scripture, sometimes Jezreel is used as a term for Israel sometimes. So let me see. Jezreelites. So in layman terms, it's just talking about an Israelite woman.
Okay.
So just don't get confused if you see that. It's not different from Israel. Jezreel, I think, was a specific actually location within the land of Israel, as well as a prophetic name for Israel. And it was told Shaul that Daud had fled to Gath. He no longer sought after him. So it seems like Shaul was afraid of the Philistines. And Daud said to Achish, if now your servant has found favor in your eyes, let him give me a place in one of the cities in the country, and I will dwell there. For why does your servant dwell with you in a royal city? So this kind of reminds me of the law of when someone is fleeing from someone, you know, even when it talks about a slave when it flees from its master who's trying to mistreat it, what that Israel was commanded to basically house a fugitive slave if its master was mistreating it and it was running away from its master. Um, so yeah, verse 6, he gave him Ziklag in that day, therefore Ziklag has belonged the king of Yehuda to this day. And the number of the days that Daud dwelt in the country of Philistine was 4 months. Okay, so reason I'm kind of speeding through this here, guys, is because there's really not much differences. So I'm really not wasting much time on expounding here. Daud and his men went up and made an attack on the Geshurites and on the Amalekites. So that's Amalek. And behold, the land was inhabited, even the land from Shur, by those who come from fortified cities, even to the land of Egypt. I don't have much to add about that unless you guys know about where Shur is. Um, I don't have much to add to that. And he attacked the land in. All right, so and he attacked the land and saved neither man nor woman alive. They took flocks and herds, donkeys, camels, clothing, and they returned and came to Achish. And Achish said to Daud, whom have you made an attack today? And Daud said to Achish, on the south of Judea and on the south of Yerahmeel and on the south of the Canaanite, or my bad, Kenites. And I have not saved man or woman alive to bring them to Gath, saying, lest they carry a report to Gath against us, saying, these things Daud does. And was his manner all the days that Daud dwelt in the country of the Philistines. So Daud had the full confidence of Achish, who said, he is thoroughly disgraced among his people in Yashrael, and he shall be my servant forever. So this Achish guy has a hidden purpose. He's going to take advantage of Daud.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so here we go. Other than that, I don't know much what else to add. Other than Daud's fleeing from Shaul. Shaul stopped pursuing him when he went to the land of Gath and all that. So now Daud's going to be serving basically the Philistines and in their army, if I remember correctly. So, all right.
Which is interesting, the least.
Yeah. So chapter 28. Oh, go ahead, Brother Dennis. You got something to add?
Well, I was just saying that David was very crafty.
Yeah, very smart. Like this is wise, and knowing the Torah is very wise too. It seems like this was a concept that multiple cultures, I guess, understood of, you got someone fleeing someone that's seeking their life unrighteously, that, the natural custom, it seems like, would be to house a fugitive running from someone that's trying to murder them.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I got out of that. All right. Mom, would you like to read chapter 28?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Saul and the witch of Endor. In those days, the Philistines gathered their forces to fight against Yashrael. Achish said to David, you must understand that you and your men will accompany me in the army. He said, then you will see for yourself what your servant can do. Achish replied, very well, I will make you my bodyguard for life. Now Samuel was dead, and all Yashrael had mourned for him and buried him in his own town of Ramah. Saul had expelled the mediums and spiritists from the land. The Philistines assembled and came and set up camp at Shunem, while Saul gathered all the Yashraelites and set up camp at Gilboa. When Saul saw the Philistine army, he was afraid. Terror filled his heart. He inquired of Yahuwah, but Yahuwah did not answer him by dreams or Urim or prophets. Saul then said to his attendants, find me a woman who is a medium, so I may go and inquire of her. There is one in Endor, they said. So Saul disguised himself, putting on other clothes, and at night he and 2 men went to the woman. Consult a spirit for me, he said, and bring up for me the one I name. But the woman said to him, surely you know what Saul has done. He has cut off the mediums and spiritists from the land. Why have you set a trap for my life to bring about my death? Saul swore to her by Yahuwah, as surely as Yahuwah lives, you will not be punished for this. Then the woman asked, "Whom shall I bring up for you?" "Bring up Samuel," he said. When the woman saw Samuel, she cried out at the top of her voice and said to Saul, "Why have you deceived me? You are Saul." The king said to her, "Don't be afraid. What do you see?" The woman said, "I see a spirit coming up out of the ground." "What does he look like?" he asked. "An old man wearing a robe is coming up," she said. Then Saul knew it was Samuel, and he bowed down and prostrated himself, his face to the ground. Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" "I am in great distress," Saul said. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and Yahuwah has turned away from me. He no longer answers me, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do." Samuel said, "Why do you consult me now that Yahuwah has turned away from you and become your enemy? Yahuwah has done what he predicted through me. Yahuwah has torn the kingdom out of your hands and given it to one of your neighbors, to David. Because you did not obey Yahuwah or carry out his fierce wrath against the Amalekites, Yahuwah has done this to you today. Yahuwah will hand over both Yashrael and you to be Philistines, and tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. Yahuwah will also hand over the army of Yashrael to the Philistines." Immediately Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of Samuel's words. His strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day and night. When the woman came to Saul and saw that he was greatly shaken, she said, "Look, your maidservant has obeyed you. I took my life in my hands and did what you told me to do. Now please listen to your servant and let me give you some food so you may eat and have the strength to go on your way." He refused and said, "I will not eat." But his men instead joined the woman in urging him, and he listened to them. He got up from the ground and sat on the couch. The woman had a fattened calf at the house, which she butchered at once. She took some flour, kneaded it, and baked bread without yeast. Then she set it before Saul and his men, and they ate. That same night, they got up and left. I gotta tell
Okay,
you,
we got a little request right now.
Mhm.
A sister just messaged me on Telegram here. Okay, so all right, okay. Yeah, so yeah, we can talk with the dead. It's not that we can't talk with the dead. Is that we're not supposed to talk with the dead. Um, just to expound on that. Divination is real, okay?
Yeah.
You can talk with, like, what I mean by that is you can talk with spirits of the dead. So not you're not talking to your dead relatives. No, that's truly correct. That's what the sister was trying to ask me to explain here. Is no, you can't talk to the spirits of dead humans, but demons essentially are spirits of the dead. They're dead giants. Okay. This is something we're not taught because we're taught not to read certain books, quote unquote. Because supposedly you know, we were taught from an upbringing that there's only 66 books to scripture and that anything outside the Bible can't be scripture. Um there are certain literature like the Book of Enoch that clearly tells you what a demon is. Okay, it's a spirit of a dead Nephilim, a dead giant. So essentially, when you're contacting the dead, you're contacting a spirit of the dead. It's just not a dead human. You're talking to demons.
Mhm.
So just to explain what I mean by that, yes, you can technically talk to a spirit of the dead, but it's not your dead relative. It's not a dead human. Humans, their spirits don't stay in the ground in Sheol. Their spirit, their breath of life that Yahuwah gave them goes back to him. So let me explain. So divination is real. You are speaking to a being. It's not like make believe. So people will say this all the time. Oh, Doug, what's the big deal? You know, if people go to get their palms read and stuff, like it's all fake. It's not really fake.
Yeah.
That palm reader essentially is channeling a demon. And sometimes they'll even get possessed by the demon.
Mhm.
And right, the demon will speak to them through that sorceress or whatever you want to call her, an enchanter, sorceress. That's all these tarot card readers are. They're just basically the demons are using them as vessels to manifest themselves through, and to say to the person that's grieving, oh, hey, I'm your Aunt Susie, your Uncle John. When in actuality, the demon, the spirit of the dead giant, is just mimicking how your uncle would have acted, how your aunt would have acted. So, for example, what is the point here? Do I think that Saul talked to Samuel? No, that wasn't Samuel. That was a demon.
Mhm.
Even though the demon acted like Samuel and said probably what Samuel would say, that's a demon. It's not him. The reason we know this is it says scripture, like I said, scripture says that once they're dead, they're dead. There's no memory.
Right.
There's, according to Ecclesiastes, according to what Solomon says in his own books, there is no memory of them. So they would not remember you. If that was really his spirit talking to Samuel, he would not remember him. And another thing too, like scripture already shows, his spirit's not in the grave. There's no way to talk to him.
That's right. Yeah.
So who was Saul talking to? He was talking to a demon. That's who he was talking to. When you see a lot of people go to use Ouija boards, okay, that stuff is real. You're summoning demons. Because you're giving them legal right, okay, to enter in the physical space that you're at, whether whose ever house you're at, wherever you are, you're giving them legal right to enter that place. So it's the same thing with having their cards read. So hopefully that explains that first question of what was really going on there. The Urim, Urim. So yeah, some translations will say Urim. I think it's a little weird in that context why it says that. Let me go. What verse, Mom, does your translation say Urim? Because we're not even talking about temple things here, so it's very weird that you would have Urim or Thummim there. Dividing spirit. Yeah. And like I said, I'm actually not a big fan of translations that use the word familiar spirit. It is a very modernized Christian term.
6th verse.
And it even tells you what Saul was seeking out was a witch, because it says in her a divining spirit.
Or urine.
Okay.
Yes, it's verse 6.
Okay, so verse 6 you said.
Yep.
I wonder if that's a translation issue. Yeah. So the Septuagint says manifestations, which makes a lot more sense. So Shaul inquired of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah answered him not by dreams, nor manifestations, nor by prophets.
Okay.
Yeah, the King James is very dumb, in my opinion, to put Urim there. I think where it started was with the King James. Because if you look at the Vulgate or the Septuagint, it says, but he did not respond to him neither by dreams, nor by priests, nor by prophets. So the Urim, I think, is a paraphrasing here, or a hinting at that, because Urim had something to do with, I think, what, the tithing. I think tithing in the temple and all that. I think Urim had something to do with that. Or I know that it has something to do with the priest. So I think what happened was the Masoretic, for whatever reason, decided to paraphrase Urim for prophets or priests. So that's what happened. Because I'm noticing the Masoretic's the only one that says Urim. The Septuagint says manifestation or by prophets. The Vulgate says nor by priests or by prophets. So priests had the Urim. I want to look up what that actually means. Urim in the Bible. I have a feeling it has to do with the priest's breastplate, if I remember correctly, from like the book of Exodus. Okay. Yeah. The Urim and Thummim were objects of now unknown nature, possibly used for. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't think the I doubt the priests would be using divination. So I disagree with GodQuestions.org. I think they don't understand what they're talking about. The priests would not use divination. So that's no. Let's go to a better source than that. The Urim and the Thummim was a priestly device for obtaining words. It might be casting lots. It might have something to do in the temple. That's what I'm thinking, right? It was for casting lots, so not divination. See, this is the problem I have with Christianity. They don't understand the difference between casting lots and sorcery. There's a huge difference. It's not the same thing, you know? So that could really mislead a lot of people. Okay.
Like miracles and magic.
Yeah, it's not the same thing as magic. Like miracles and just to explain everyone, supernatural abilities that Yahuwah gives sometimes, and Yahuwah's supernatural nature is not the same thing as sorcery or magic. So, like, for example, Yahuwah by miracles caused a pole to turn into a snake. Janus and Jambres used sorcery to try to copy with what Yahuwah's supernatural power could do. What sorcery and magic really is a perversion. It is trying to copy Yahuwah's miracles. It's trying to copy his supernatural nature. So that's what magic is in essence. It's a perversion. It is not. It is, so I don't want people getting confused here with the Urim and the Thummim. So basically, they would just use it to cast lots to find out what. Sometimes they would cast lots to find out what Yahuwah's word was, what he wants them to do in certain things. And you'll see that with other essences. Casting lots was very common in Israel. You would cast. Right. They would cast lots for clothing sometimes when someone would become dead. Hence why Yahusha said they cast lots for my garments. Okay? Even though that was a messianic prophecy, also that was a popular custom of that day. So let's see here.
Yeah, how about where?
Yep, go ahead, bro.
How about where he's told to go to a medium at Endor? And if you remember Bewitched, that was Samantha's mother's name, Endora.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, Endor. Yeah, so Endor seems to be a name of I guess, I guess in that context, what a name of a land that's
Yeah.
being used.
Right, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so this witch, this sorceress lived at Endor. So anyway, if you guys want, I'll give you guys the link to this article about the Urim and the Thummim. This is from jewishlibrary.org. This is like a historical website that gives you a lot of different articles about stuff. It talks about how it has a lot to do with, it would usually be on the priest's breast, priest ephod. And so there would be a pouch inlaid with 12 precious stones, and talks about that. And it says supposedly the 12 stones held the Urim and the Thummim in it. Okay, so that's actually what it is. They're materials they would use, but not for divination, for basically for, they would inquire Yahuwah by casting lots to see what his answer would be. So it's not the same thing as divination. Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm just trying to see. Then it talks about that according to the Septuagint, there's the last period for which there's evidence of use of the ephod Urim is that of David, but Hosea 3:4 specifically, oracles are conveyed exclusively by prophets. Okay, so yeah, you could read the rest of the article if you guys want, but that kind of gives you context on what it is. They are materials, physical materials that would be used in casting lots to seek Yahuwah's will on certain things. Sometimes they would go into prayer to Yahuwah and not get a specific answer, sometimes like a direct answer sometimes. So sometimes they would cast lots to see what Yahuwah's will is on something. So anyway. All right. So let's see if there's anything else important here. So we got the divining spirit. So hopefully that answered both of those questions.
Yeah, I find it interesting because the different idea that I have now. When I was a lot younger and in the church, I just thought this was a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
I didn't think anything really legitimate could come of this, but you come to find out, yeah, these things really are real, and they're evil, and they're of the evil one. So we need not to just sort of fluff it off, because he is real, and he does do real things like this.
Mm-hmm. And this was kind of the last straw for Shaul here, for Saul, where Yahuwah's basically done with him at this point. He's completely done. If you look at verse 18 there, he's completely done. Yahuwah's not, if Saul wasn't given into a reprobate mind at this point, he's about to be. Because Yahuwah even says to him, because of what you did not do, what I commanded you to do concerning Amalek, now this has come upon you. So Yahuwah's even saying to him, you know what? If you would have done what I told you to do, you would not be in this situation. You all right there, Mom?
Yeah. I just want to get something out from under my fingernail.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now this witch is telling him, I'm going to feed you a morsel of bread because he hasn't been eating.
Mhm.
Now the woman had a fattened calf. She picked up on the bread. She said, they walked all through that night. So that's pretty much the end of 28 there. It's pretty much self-explanatory. This would be great if you would work, you stupid thing. All right. I don't know what's going on with the words. Software's acting up a bit. All right. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Now we should be fixed. What the heck is going on here? Okay. So, Brother Dennis, would you like to finish us off here? Sure.
Okay, I can. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And the Philistines gathered all their armies at Aphek, while Yisrael encamped by a fountain, which is Yisrael. And the princes of the Philistines were passing on by hundreds and by thousands. And David and his men were passing on in the rear with Achish. The princes of the Philistines said, "Who are these Hebrews?" And Achish said to the princes of the Philistines, "This is not David, servant of Shaul, sovereign of Yisrael, who has been with me these days, or these years. And to this day I have found no evil in him since he came over." But the princes of the Philistines were wroth with him, and the princes of the Philistines said to him, "Send the man back, let him return to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us to battle, lest in the battle he become our adversary. For with what could he appease his master, if not with the heads of these men? Is this not David, of whom they sang to each other in dances, saying, Shaul smote his thousands, and David his 10,000s? And Achish called David and said to him, "As Yahuwah lives, you have been straight, and your going out with your coming in, and with me in the army is good in my eyes. So to this day I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me. But in the eyes of the princes you are not good, not told. And now return and go in peace, and do no evil in the eyes of the princes of the Philistines." David said to Achish, "But what have I done? And to this day, what have you found in your servant as long as I have been with you, that I should not go and fight against the enemies of my master, the sovereign?" But Achish answered and said to David, "I know that you are as good in my eyes as a messenger of Yahuwah. But the princes of the Philistines have said, let him not go up with us in the battle. And now rise early in the morning with your master's servants who have come with you, and as soon as you are up early in the morning and have light, then go." David and his men rose up early to go in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Yisrael. That is amazing. The Philistines saw who he was, and Achish was okay with it.
Yeah. They were just worried that he was going to stab them in the back, is what it was. They were worried, oh, isn't this the same David that killed all the thousands?
Yeah.
You know, not just Goliath, but thousands of Philistines.
Right, but I think they were probably thinking because Goliath was one of them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
this was the guy that did him in,
Yeah.
so yeah. Yeah.
Second thoughts.
Right. But it's funny, because like Achish, from what I was reading in my Bible, was the son of the king of the Philistines.
Mhm.
And so he himself had no problem with David,
Mhm.
but his other ones are like, well, you better get rid of him because yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This a little bit. Okay. Yeah, so there's not much really to add there. A lot of these chapters were just self-explanatory. Really not anything out of the ordinary that I've seen. Yeah, so we pretty much have Daoud continuing to fight for the Philistines,
Mhm.
and he's fighting on their side against Saul. Saul seems to be backing off from seeking David's life, at least for the moment, just because he's afraid of the Philistines. He doesn't want to really battle them. But now it seems like Daoud is now marching out with the Philistines to go to Jezreel to battle Yasharal. So now you're going to have another confrontation between him and Daoud. But I think the most important chapter today's reading, really where we learn the most, in my opinion, is pretty much from the chapter with Shaul and why Yahuwah rejected him, not just as king, but it seems like Yahuwah rejects him as like really being part of his people at this point, and where Yahuwah is looking at Shaul as an enemy at this point. You know, so I think in Yahuwah's eyes, sorcery is like the worst thing you could possibly do. It's like maybe not the very, very worst thing, but it's like one of the higher sins that really Yahuwah can't stand. It's an abomination. It's like in that abomination category, like where you got eating pork, homosexuality. I would say sorcery is like somewhere in that upper tier of sins. Now, just before we leave, I did want to give proof of what I was saying is true about the whole demons thing. So if you guys are interested, we have done a study about this. So I just want to kind of let's see here. So I would really recommend you guys check this video out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this link. So once this recording goes live, you'll be able to just click on that link and that will get you to the study. Now, if you don't want to waste time to watch the video, the link to the actual original Google Doc of that study is in the description. So if you just want to look up the scriptures for yourselves on that matter, but there's multiple scriptures actually showing what demons actually are in that study we did about what are demons exactly. So I really recommend you do that because it will help you understand what we read in chapter 28. It will help you understand, who, Shaul was actually communicating with and why Yahuwah tells us do not talk to the dead.
Mhm.
So, people might be saying, well, if Yahuwah is telling us not to do something, does that mean it's possible? Yeah, it's possible. You are, quote unquote, talking to spirits of the dead, just not who you think you're talking to.
Right.
You're talking to spirits of dead giants. That's what demons are. So essentially, they are spirits of, quote unquote, dead beings. They're just not human spirits. They're spirits of hybrid giants that are dead, that are physically dead in Tartarus, in the bottomless pit. But because these spirits were not created by Yahuwah, they weren't given by his breath.
He didn't breathe on these beings or create these beings. There's a nefesh that is not given by him. So now this spirit, the demons have nowhere to go. Basically, what modern day culture calls ghosts is what a demon is. It has nowhere to go, so it roams around on the earth because it can't go to heaven. It can't go to the lake of fire either. It just kind of roams around.
It looks for a body to inhabit.
Yeah, so it's a parasite. Like these ruachs are parasites. These evil ruachim are parasites. That's all they are. To explain, it's like you ever watched going back to the superhero genre. You ever watched Venom from Spider-Man? There you go. That's what they are. The black goo theory and all that, and dark matter and all that's connected. All that's connected. So anyway, so I recommend you guys look into that, watch that study, or at least test the doc that I have attached to that study. But anyways, have a great rest of your Shabbat, all of our brothers and sisters in Yahuwah Almighty Yahushua Messiah. Have a great rest of your day, and Shabbat Shalom.